Welcome, my name is Katarina Eva and today I will show you how to make this awesome card with Mermaid. I color the Mermaid using watercolor pencils and I color it on dark cardstock. This card is my inspiration for March House of Cards challenge. This month we ask you to use pencils um, on dark cardstock or colors, and I start with this Magical Mermaid stamp set from Stampin Up. I prepare my background using embossing body and I hit emboss this beautiful stamp with Mermaid and also this small background stamp with bubbles or drops using gold embossing powder. So my first idea was to make the feeling of Mermaid in the dark deep sea or ocean, but as you can see on the photos I put on the beginning of this video, I changed my idea a little bit during the work. So I start with this blue Pacific Point watercolor pencil. It was my first time I used the pencils or on dark cardstock, uh, or even I don't remember last time when I used the pencils on dark cardstock. So first I was thinking that maybe I would try to blend them using blender pens from Stampin' Up, but it wasn't successful and I don't create the background I was hoping for, so I changed the design a little bit. So I'm using basically Pacific Point, Bermuda Bay, Whisper White and a little bit of Old Olive, and I just color inside the lines, so it's very easy. These pencils are pigmented, highly pigmented, so you have a lot of color if you color on the dark cardstock. I was thinking how really it turns out on the end, but it looked like it's only matter of good pencils. So I'm very pleased with the final effect I get using this Stampin' Up watercolor pencils. I colored the hairs using Calypso Coral, and I also used a little bit of Pacific Point, but on the final design I covered this bond. I color with Pacific Point with gems, so you will not see this on my final photos. And I start to adding Whisper White around the Mermaid to have more deep ocean feel, like the water flow around. So I will skip forward this part of coloring background because on the end, on the final design, I will not use the background. But meanwhile, I will talk a little bit about using watercolor or over pencils on dark cardstock. So I was checking few things last night, and I think that better way to color with pencil on dark cardstock is using watercolor pencils, and they should be great pigmented, high pigmented, and I don't recommend to use water or blenders or other things because I think they taking off this bright pigment from cardstock. So if you want to try coloring on dark cardstock, I recommend to just using the watercolor pencil straightly on the cardstock. So as you can see right now, I'm using blender pen and it's take all the pigment from the cardstock. So definitely doesn't make the job I was hoping for. Okay, it's time to relax during my coloring, which takes about 2 minutes. You can also skip and go to 8 minutes of this video to see my next steps. So this is my final background. I like the effect, but I don't really have idea in my head how to use it. So I decide to cut out, just fuzzy cut, the shape of Mermaid. It takes me 1 minute maybe. And I decide to um, go with this idea of deep sea, deep black ocean, uh, simply putting the mermaid on the edge of white and black cardstock. And I take the shimmery white cardstock. Uh, this cardstock could be colored, not maybe heavy like watercolor paper, but it's definitely not so thick, and you can make a little bit simpler coloring on this. So it's perfect for light watercoloring, and also because of shimmery look you can use this cardstock for Mermaid and Unicorn project. So this is my special surprise card for my friend Alexandra, who is ballerina in Dublin, and she passed the test for ballerina troupe or theater troupe. I don't really know how it's called, but I'm so proud of her, so I want to make the special card for her. So I'm using Pacific Point and I stamp on shimmery paper this sentiment which says, I will never stop believing in you, which I found is perfect for my friend. She's working so hard to go to this ballerinas group. Oh my god, I'm so proud of her. So I decide to go back to these bubbles I was using in my not super fantastic background, and I using first Pacific Point. As you can see, I'm making as many um, stamp images. I stamping so many times till I still have ink on my stamp, and I want to have this feeling of ocean, but on white cardstock, so it's not so dark. And I decide to add two more colors, so it's Bermuda Bay right now, and also you will see on the end Marina Mist. So I add a little bit of Bermuda Bay between Pacific Point, and I feel it's so perfect. It's add this vibrant tones, but still we are in the blue tones, so my favorite. And I decide to add here and there a little bit of this very light stamping with bubbles, so you can see how it look like. And because it is shimmery white cardstock, I can do some watercoloring. So I took my Marina Mist ink pad and I squeezed it a little bit to have ink on my lid, and I took my aqua painter and I just put few drops of water in the lid of ink pad, and I try to make this pigmented watercolor background. So I basically start to add some Marina Mist on the same place I concentrate with these bubbles. I was checking every single time I add the color on the background how my composition look like, so I feel it's still not enough of color on the background, so I decide to add more color, but more light color. And I love the effect. I decide I can play and play, of course, with coloring and watercoloring, but I won't just have this flow feeling of ocean, which was my first idea for this card. When I finish my background, I decide to add a few splashes using my aqua painter. I just want to have like little bit of not regular ones, because all these I make with stamp look almost the same, so I want to have like more random look. So during my shimmery white cardstock is drying on the side of my desk, I decide to add one more element to my card, and I was checking few things, but almost everything was too much to not disturb my composition. So I decide to use vellum, and I punch the vellum using this decorative ribbon punch. And as you can see, I was even surprised that this punch is so sharp and could cut so delicate material like vellum. So this sponge cut the stripe, and I decide to use this scallop edge, but of course I was checking which edge look better on my card. So I put two stripes of tearing tape on the back of cardstock, and I just directly glue my decorative stripe to the tearing tape. and then I took my scissors and I just cut the excess. I add the Tombow liquid glue to glue panel to my card. I add the dimensionals on the back of Mermaid. I use both large, so regular size dimensionals, and this new one, so the small ones. And I take the backing from dimensionals and I decide to add a gold thread. So I simply put few rolls of thread on my fingers and I take them out, and then I glue the thread straightly to dimensionals. Unfortunately you can see this, sorry about that, but I have my Mermaid upside down, so I'm just gluing directly my thread to the dimensionals, and every time I'm checking it's okay how the thread look like. So every time I modified it a little bit, gluing some small pieces to dimensional to make sure there is not too much on the left side, so on the fold of card. On the end, of course, I feel it's necessary to add some embellishment, so I use this Dapper Denim Heart. Unfortunately, this is retirement products from Stampin' Up, but you can find other blue shades in our Brides and Saddle collection. And I decide to add a little more blink, so I took through the smallest rhinestones and I put them on the hairband. That's it for today. Thank you very much for your time. If you are new to my channel, please like and subscribe and help me give you more awesome tutorials. And I invite you also to take a part in House of Cards challenge for March and try to color on dark cardstock, or you can also use the colors from photo inspiration for this month. The only condition is making the card. So I hope to see you soon. Bye!